Welcome to Questions Just Asked. This whole month, I've really enjoyed these questions, almost too much. They are they're questions that there's no really sound pat answer, like what does God look like? Should you start attending the church if you don't believe in God? What's the best part of going to church? And misconceptions of the faith. This week's question falls along the same line. It's what religious lingo should someone know before joining a religion? Well, again, there's one of these questions that I think somebody has an ulterior agenda that doesn't spell it. But I think we're going to take the word religion and take that out and say, become a believer in a body called the church. That's what I think I'm going to do. There is. Religious lingo, that's kind of one of my pet peeves. Did you know that the majority of the world, even sitting in the pew on Sunday, is biblically illiterate? So when we use words like justification, sanctification, glorification, few know what we mean. Nowadays, you can even say the Apostle Paul, and nobody has any idea who you're talking to about. About the only thing people know anymore is Jesus, and there's a thing called the Bible. Oh, there's a Garden of Eden, there's Adam, and but lingo. Lingo is words that are used only in the context of the environment. Listen, every religion has this lingo, but here's my point. I think we all ought to be aware in a biblically illiterate word, if we have to use a word, to make sure we define it. I have this issue with pastors all the time. When they speak and use words that you have no idea what they're meaning. I was in a church service recently, and a pastor used the word, and I think he used it because it had anything to do with biblical lingo. It's just a word that I think he was being smart a little bit. And he laughed and said, "You probably don't know what that word means." Now, I was busy looking it up on Google trying to figure out what it was because I'd never heard of it. You know what the problem was? He never defined it. To this day, I spent 5 minutes looking on Google, and I don't even know how you spell it, much less what it means. And I never found out what it meant. Now, I think that's just, I think something that Christians must be aware of, as well as pastors. One responsibility we have is to make the scriptures clear, make the gospel clear. You don't go up to a little child and say, "Are you justified in Christ?" You would never do that. The little kid look at you and say, "Huh?" No, you'd never do that. Can't you wait till you're glorified? You never say that to a 5-year-old. And yet we speak like that, assuming that the audience knows the lingo. We got to wake up. This is part of Christianity's problem. It's speaking a language nobody knows. We have to clarify all sorts of, we have to clarify who the people are, the concepts, the theology, and even all the way down to words. I've been doing it more and more. I write this article for the Bluffton Today every Sunday. It's a religious or faith article. And I make sure that if I'm referring to somebody, I'll put the Apostle Paul, a follower of Jesus or something like that. One of the first missionaries, something like that. Defining who the person was. And if there's a word I'm using that is just not normal lingo, I define it. So what should you know? I'd say none. It's the responsibility of the believer, pastors, teachers to clarify what lingo had. Now, I do want to say this. If there's lingo you hear and you don't know what it means, you got to ask. Don't Google it, ask. Because Google, especially Wikipedia, is not always accurate. So, hey, there's no lingo you should have to know to become a believer in Jesus Christ and be a member of a church. None. And hey, if you're watching this and you're a pastor or you're a believer or you're a teacher, be aware. It is our responsibility to make the gospel clear, not their responsibility to figure it out. And if we can become more compassionate, grace-filled, and merciful by clarifying our lingo, I think that's very God-honoring and glorifying. So that's my short answer of the week, or the month, or whatever we are in. Next week, we're in October. Fall's coming, and I've got a loaded question to start off the month. Is what are your thoughts on the novel and the movie, The Shack? But you can't wait for that one. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me.